You know, they say the Thunderdome is in Amway Center in Florida, but I have a feeling it might actually be in the Bermuda Triangle. Because WWE managed to put on a pay-per-view last night that both felt like the beginning of a new era and a bit of a retread. Allow me to take your purse as usual, or for the first time, and let's do the time warp. This is Payback 2020 Graded. On the Kickoff show, we have the Riott squad in matching gear. Friends again, taking on the IIconics. Now, Ruby Riott in this match comes across a little bit naughty, a little bit heelish. There's an occasion where she has a clear tag to Liv Morgan and doesn't take it. And there's another occasion where she tags herself in. And this little bit of possible dissension is what Billie Kay and Peyton Royce use against them. There's a point close to the end of this match where Ruby Riott gets knocked into Liv Morgan when Morgan's back is turned, and the IIconics try and convince Liv Morgan that it was actually Ruby Riott attacking her deliberately. And Liv Morgan's upset on the outside of the ring, doesn't know what to do, looks like she's going to walk off up the ramp, leaving Ruby to get beaten up, changes her mind, gets the hot tag in, cleans house on everybody. We see Liv Morgan nearly fall to the hands of the IIconics. She manages to fight them both off. Her and Ruby hit a double Riott kick onto Billie Kay for the 1, 2, 3. Big win over the IIconics for the Riott squad. After this, they join the Kickoff show panel to reveal they are no longer the Riott squad. They are now the Living Riott. It's not as catchy. C+ for this match. Very good. Nothing too massive to write home about. I thought making Ruby a bit heelish midway through this match was a strange flex when you consider that, like, Ruby has been pushing for this team to get back together all the way through. That was a strange turn of events. Regardless, it's a nice enough way to cap off this story arc for them. Opening match of the night proper is for the US Championship. Apollo Crews defending against Bobby Lashley. Pretty dominant performance by Bobby through most of this. Hey, he did a thing in this, and I loved it. It was kind of like a Uranagi suplex that landed Apollo gut first on the top rope. Really cool little twisty move, among other moves. Bobby was very strong in this one. Crews kept trying to mount a comeback, but Bobby just kept cutting him off. We had one really good flurry from Apollo Crews that saw him land some German suplexes, a beauty of a frog splash as well, but tonight belonged to Bobby Lashley. He drops Apollo with a massive one-armed slam and then locks in the full Lashley, which is the full Nelson with the leg scissors for the submission victory. MVP and Shelton Benjamin get into the ring to celebrate. They bring a photographer over to take photos, and they do this weird bit where the photographer's taking photos and the photos are inset into the live channel. Weird looking thing. Then Apollo Crews jumps Lashley and then dives out of the ring before the Hurt Business can lay a hurting on him and says he will get his US Championship back. B- to open this one. The Lashley domination situation was what dominated this one. And Apollo Crews losing clean, then attacking Bobby at the end, didn't smack of like a babyface out for revenge because he lost clean as a whistle. Yet kind of beat up the heel at the end. It just smacked us of a sore loser. Regardless, it was a good match to start us off. Paul Heyman arrives and he's not answering many questions. Roman Reigns has or has not signed the contract for the title match in the main event. More on that later. We get a recap of Big E's passionate words from SmackDown ahead of his match with Sheamus right now. Two big boys slapping meat. It's a Big E favourite, this one. Big strong boy match between Big E and Sheamus. Sheamus takes over in this match and just keeps Big E on the back foot for a lot of it. It's when Big E misses an apron splash that Sheamus starts to wear him down. But Big E is resilient. He kicks out of the Irish Curse backbreaker. He survives the Texas Cloverleaf. He survives a heel hold. Just keeps pushing back back into this, hitting that amazing through the rope spear onto Sheamus late into the match. End comes when Sheamus goes for the brogue kick and Big E turns it into a massive powerbomb, then hits with the big ending for the 1, 2, 3. Big E then gets out of the ring, goes over to Corey on commentary and tells him to tell the people that he is ready. Big E is pumped up at the end of this match. And I'm giving this one a B. I really enjoyed the intense big boy action in this particular match. There was bits in the middle where it slowed down a touch, but you know what? You've had Big E pin John Morrison and The Miz. He's now pinned Sheamus clean, and he survived some big moves from Sheamus in this as well. You really made Big E look strong in this. There is an opportunity to make a star in Big E. Do not squander it. King Corbin takes on Matt Riddle next. First time in a long while we have seen King Corbin carried out by his minions. There's just not the room in the Performance Center for that sort of thing. Before the match starts, Matt Riddle finds out that Corbin has been talking garbage on Twitter, getting a little bit kayfabe, talking about how Matt Riddle is a failure at home. Riddle's not happy about this, but doesn't really get a chance to take the early lead in this one. As he's kicking off his flip-flops and the pyro's going off, there's Corbin with a clothesline to take him down. Corbin, strong dominance in this match, with Matt Riddle just trying to eke back into it using different submission techniques, ground and pounding onto Baron Corbin, but Corbin just the stronger unit in this. Despite a Kimura and a sleeper hold jumping onto the back of Corbin just keeps coming. It just keeps coming. He goes for that running around the ring and back into the ring attack thing. Ends up eating a big roundhouse by Matt Riddle that puts Riddle back in control. Riddle fights back from a deep 6 to land a bro to sleep and a floating bro for the 1, 2, 3. Matt Riddle, clean win over Baron Corbin. A lot of clean wins so far tonight. Giving this one a B-. There was lots of good stuff in this one. Felt like it went a bit long in the middle, sort of dipped in the middle a bit, but the clean victory over Baron Corbin is definitely the way to go. And I kind of left this thinking that's a nice way to cap off the Corbin rivalry with Matt Riddle, move Matt on to other things. But no, Riddle giving a post-match interview, gets attacked by Corbin, left laying in the backstage area. These two aren't done yet. Oh, we were so close to moving Matt Riddle onto something else. So close. The Women's Tag Team Championships are on the line tonight. It's the Golden Role Models defending against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Nia Jax wearing a Tamina t-shirt tonight. Some say in honor of Tamina, I say in honor of Ross. This starts really strong with Shayna Baszler overpowering the Golden Role Models. Nia Jax gets taken out of the match early on when the Golden Role Models basically position Nia to get wiped out by Baszler. You got Sasha holding onto Nia's leg on the outside of the ring. And then you got Bayley pushing Shayna Baszler into Nia Jax. She falls out of the ring and jacks her knee. She's sort of outside the ring as Baszler's trying to fight off the tag champions for a little while. And then we have a moment where Bayley pins Shayna and Nia Jax uses the body of Sasha Banks, who they're scuffling outside the ring, throws her into the ring to break up the cover. Shortly after this, Nia Jax back outside the ring with Sasha Banks, smacks Banks' heads against the side of the barricades. Look painful. Jax gets into this match, but it's not long before she's overpowered by the Golden Role Models. She manages to push back into this, though, cute comedy moment where Bayley has a leg lock on Nia Jax following an attempted leg drop. And Nia is able, on one foot, to get back to her feet and move over to her corner. And you've got Bayley just grabbing onto the leg of Nia Jax as Jax walks over to the other side of the ring. Tags into Shayna Baszler. Baszler goes wild. And then there's like this little moment between Baszler and Jax where they go, we could do this. It's like a little eureka moment where they go, actually, we might have this. Nia Jax survives the double onslaught and Shayna Baszler tags herself in. And then we get a very creative finish. So Sasha Banks goes for Shayna, ends up getting into an Indian deathlock, courtesy of Shayna. And then Shayna has the opportunity and takes it to put Bayley in the clutch. Falls back with Sasha Banks locked in her Indian deathlock and Bayley locked in her clutch. And they're like this. and Sasha Banks reaches over to try and break it. Shayna ends up grabbing the arm of Sasha and holding both of them at the same time. Baszler has both Sasha Banks and Bayley in a submission hold at the same time. And after several moments of this, Bayley tapped out. And your new women's tag team champions are Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. Outside of the ring, the champs are it's two different stories here. Sasha Banks is just staring at the ground despondent. She's now Banks no belts. And there is Bayley staring daggers through Sasha Banks. Despite the fact that it was Bayley that tapped, Bayley looks livid at Sasha Banks. Back in the ring, we try and get a word from the new tag team champions, but Nia Jax is just overexcited. She's screaming, she's jumping in front of the camera. Shayna Baszler tries to talk, then just gives up and says, let's go celebrate. And that is how that ends, with the champions still on the ramp. Same story, Banks looking deflated and Bayley looking livid. Do you know what? A- for this. I thought this was a solid women's tag team match overall. There were some ropey bits in here. And Nia Jax always gets a kick in, and some of the ropey bits did come from Nia Jax, I'll be perfectly honest. But this is one of her better performances in a while. She's in there with strong people. The story that this match told was excellent. The finish was incredibly creative, and it continues to tell that story of the destruction of the golden role models. The mega powers exploding, if you will. Big fan of this one. This, to me, so far, was match of the night. Big Keith Lee fights Randy Orton next. Now, they haven't changed Keith's music, sadly, but they have tweaked his attire, and the attire looks better. Much more of a fan of what we've got here. All we need is some new music now. So if we're not going to have the old rap music, let's give him something super cool. This very much feels like a retread from their match from Monday Night Raw. Randy Orton surprised by the power of Keith Lee initially, but Orton, being the vet, takes over, starts screaming to Keith Lee about respect, chopping him in the chest over and over again. Keith just absorbing these, then blasts him with a Grizzly Magnum, that big double chop to take him down. Orton rallies, ends up getting Keith outside the ring, dropping him on the announce table. A few moments later, after a bit of a fight back in the ring, Keith returns the favor, pounces Orton outside the ring, then drops Orton onto the announce table as well. Back in the ring, we see Orton hit a draping DDT, goes for the RKO, but the moment he goes up for the RKO, Keith manages to spin it into a spirit bomb. 1, 2, 3. And that is that. Keith Lee, in record time almost, just pinned Randy Orton, clean as a whistle. Said that a lot tonight, haven't I? Giving Keith and Randy's outing here a B. I thought what they did in the time they had was really fun. I think it could have been a bit longer. It did feel a little bit like their match on Raw, but a little bit tidier in places. And of course, a big win for Keith at the very end. You can't go wrong with that. It feels very much like a changing of the guard for most of tonight. You look at some of the winners from tonight. So like Lashley's now the new US champion. Big E pinning another former WWE champion tonight. You had Matt Riddle pinning Corbin. You've got new women's tag team champions. And now you've got Keith pinning Randy Orton. All feels like the beginning of something kind of new. And I'm not against it. In another rematch from Monday Night Raw, we have got Ray and Dominik Mysterio facing the greater good of Seth Rollins and Murphy. It looks as if Ray is going to start this one, but then Dominik slides on in there, starts beating up the baddies. Good lad. The Mysterios start hot in this one. We even get the moments with Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins getting back mano a mano. And it turns into an intense strike fest. Rollins manages to overpower Rey Mysterio. There's a great spot here where Seth baseball slides Rey Mysterio out of the ring into the waiting knees of Murphy. Perfectly landed. I like that move. Can we make that a move in the next wrestling game? Ray gets beaten down for ages in this one. Dom gets a hot tag, dives off the top onto Seth and Murphy, but ends up eating a Falcon Arrow by Seth Rollins on the way down. So then he is on the defensive from here on in. Eventually, Dom gets the tag back to his dad, and everybody's in at that point, hitting everything. Seth and Ray having some great interchanges here. Every time Seth starts to get on the defensive, he manages to turn it around into something else. So as Ray's going for a tilt-a-whirl, Seth turns it into a side slam. As Ray's coming off the top rope, Seth gets the knees up. The end comes with Seth calling for Murphy to get ready for a kick in the head to Rey Mysterio. They go for that buckle bomb enziguri combo move they do, but Rey turns the powerbomb into a Hurricane Rana. Murphy ends up kicking Seth clean in the head. After this, we get a tag back to Dom, 619 onto Murphy, and a frog splash onto Murphy for the 1, 2, 3. Dominik Mysterio picking up a W in the WWE as Murphy and Seth outside the ring. Seth's not very happy that Murphy kicked him in the head, but father and son having a lovely moment in the center of the ring. Now, I wasn't sure how I felt about putting on a retread of a match from Raw onto Payback, but this was exactly what the main event of Raw should have been. I'm giving this an A. They got loads of time here to do what they needed to do, and it just told a great story throughout it. I think Dominik Mysterio shone again in this match. He's been so good in such a short burst of time. Like, he handles himself so well in there. There is always work to do, but I thought in this match he was excellent. I think everybody played their part really well. I'm nearly at a point where I'm ready for this feud to start wrapping up now. I know that Seth and Rey have a showdown on Raw coming up, so maybe that might be the end of it, but I thought the women's tag match was going to be match of the night. I think this has just clipped that. Just though. Only just. And so we come to main event o'clock. The Universal Championship is on the line. It is the Fiend defending against Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns. Has Roman signed the contract for the match? Oh, still all up in the air. We don't know. Fiend makes his way out to the ring. A really big fan of the Fiend's entrance in Thunderdome. It just looks so good. He stands in the ring and he's posing and Braun Strowman's just attacked him. Oh, match is underway. There we go. This is a much cleaner, much more aggressive redo of their match from SummerSlam, because there's no sign of Roman for ages. So we just get Braun and Fiend just battering each other, kicking out all of their stuff. We see a Uranagi from the Fiend that puts Braun Strowman through the announce table. We cut to the back where Alexa Bliss is watching, twiddling her hair, which is apparently what ladies do when they fancy you. Who knew? I certainly didn't. And we see Fiend pull out his big comedy mallet. Nearly gets it to him because Braun takes it off him. Fiend then uses it against Braun, whacks him in the guts with it. They fight up the ramp. Braun Strowman charges at Fiend on top of the ramp and they go crashing into the technical area. And Braun and Fiend find their way back towards the ring. Braun has the bright idea to go off the top rope. Never done that before, but now is the time to do it. Fiend wakes up in time to see this. And in a move that we get both all the time and hardly ever, Fiend suplexes Braun Strowman off the top rope. And my God, the ring breaks. Everything breaks. Top marks to Charles Robinson, who does a beautiful bit of interpretive dance to get himself out of the ring. I quite enjoyed that here. Yeah, it's one of those moves which is both a rarity and a trope at the same time. It's weird, isn't it? As this happens, both men are down, and then here comes the big dog, and he's with Paul Heyman. Roman Reigns on the top of the ramp signs the contract to be a part of this match, marches down to the ring with a steel chair, doesn't need it off the bat, rolls into the ring to pin the Fiend, down comes a ref, only gets a 2. Tries to pin Braun, only gets a 2. Goes to grab the chair, batters Braun with the chair, only gets a 2. Goes for the Fiend, gets a mandible claw from the Fiend, low blows the Fiend, and then in an unintentionally hilarious moment, the ring is broken at this point, but Roman Reigns falls backwards. Cameras don't catch this, so I don't think it was intentional. Roman falls backwards and then collapses backwards through the ring because I guess he was expecting the ropes to protect him, but they're not there. So then we cut to Roman, who's outside the ring holding his mouth, and I'm sure like the back of his head was dinged in the process as well. I'm hoping he's all right. Back in the ring, Fiend is outside the ring recovering because apparently you can kick a demon in the bowels and it takes them out of the business. Back in the ring, there's Roman, spear to Braun Strowman, 1, 2, 3, and Roman Reigns is the WWE Universal Champion. The last shot we see is Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns on top of the ramp, Universal Championship held high. Given the main event a B+, I thought that the brutality, the smoke and mirrors that Braun and Fiend put on was improved from SummerSlam. Didn't feel as slow and as plodding and as awkward, and it was a bit better put together. The suplex spot was always cool to see. Roman Reigns coming out at the end to win the championship. And also, point this out, right? For all those years, as if you're a long-suffering wrestling fan, you'll get this. All those years where WWE piped in cheers for Roman Reigns or tried to mute the boos. How funny is it to live in this era where WWE are piping in boos for Roman Reigns? 2020, you are a hell of a drug. I am very much on board for Roman Reigns now becoming the cool heel. Jack said this in What Happened At, and it's true. Like, they're doing with Roman Reigns what we wanted to see done for the longest of times with Hulk Hogan in the early 90s, and that eventually happened in WCW, but there was certainly a feel for it in the WWF as well. Something that we wanted to see done with not so much with Steve Austin, they did that, but with John Cena, absolutely. Like with John Cena, we wanted to see him become a heel. We never got that. Roman Reigns, there was always that call just to make this guy a badass. And they did, and they have. And I am intrigued. So whilst it feels like the same old, that Roman Reigns is back on top of the company with the championship almost immediately following his absence, it feels different. It's the same old brand new Roman. Overall, for Payback, I'm giving it a B+. I think it was a far better show than SummerSlam was. I think it had more to offer than SummerSlam did. I feel that even though there was a few things that were sort of just rehashes from Raw, they didn't have much time to put this together, so I kind of get that. A lot of the right people won. In fact, I think pretty much all the right people won when you really break it down. Even the Roman Reigns bit, I know people will be upset about Roman Reigns becoming the champion, but at least they're embracing the fact that he's an arsehole in the way that he does so. So I'm not massively against that. So I'm giving this a B+. Good show for Payback. Very intrigued to see where we are going forward. Can we now have a couple of weeks where we don't have a pay-per-view? Just I quite like to have a little sleep in on a Monday morning. That'd be nice. Stay safe. Love you, bye.